Well, greetings, folks. Joseph Kerski here. I'm a geographer, and I have worked in 4 different sectors of society: nonprofits, government agencies, USGS, NOAA, Census Bureau, a private company, Environmental Systems Research Institute, where I serve on the education team supporting schools, libraries, museums, universities, tribal colleges, technical colleges. And I also have been immersed in academia, so I teach at several different universities. So 4 different sectors of society, all as a geographer. Happy to be with you. Today, I'd like to speak about 2 things: spatial thinking and spatial technologies. Spatial thinking is, to me, one analogy that you could think about is, let's say you drilled a core into the surface of the earth, right at the surface. You'd uncover cobbles, boulders, pebbles, and a lot of soil binding those things together. To me, the cobbles and boulders and pebbles are the disciplines that most people understand, at least in part: chemistry, biology, mathematics, history, etc. What binds them together is the soil or the subsurface, the particles. And that, to me, is spatial thinking. All disciplines at some point, and many at numerous points, ask the whys of where question. Supply chain and business, for example. And we've encountered this as a society, right, over the last 2 years. Why can't I get this product at the store? There's a disruption in the supply chain. So business people think about the whys of where, about distributors, consumers, supply chain points, and the vulnerabilities of those points and lines. A transportation engineer thinks about the whys of where. A health official thinks about patterns of disease or wellness. A civil engineer thinks about, how am I going to span that gully with a bridge? Thinking spatially. So thinking spatially touches all disciplines, and it is fundamental to geography, but it touches all disciplines. But it's hard to grab, just like that drill cylinder that I talked about at the surface of the earth. It slips through your fingers. It's hard to grasp. We don't have subjects in school called spatial thinking. We do have geography and environmental studies and some other disciplines that are very much related to spatial thinking. However, spatial thinking, I would contend, is an important thing to teach students at all levels, in part because all of the 21st century issues that we're grappling with, population change, biodiversity loss, climate, natural hazards, etc., are all spatial in nature. They take place over space and time, and they dynamically interact, and they affect our everyday lives. They're global problems that affect and impact our everyday lives. And perhaps over the last 2 years, that has become acutely in people's minds with COVID, for example, that we've got a global situation that is affecting our everyday lives. So spatial thinking is important. It can be drawn out through geography, but many other disciplines as well. Back in 2004, the US Department of Labor said there are 3 hot or growing fields for the 21st century: nanotechnologies, biotechnologies, and geotechnologies about the earth. And my work is firmly anchored in the geotechnologies. Geotechnologies, as the name implies, has to do with the earth, but also tools that we can help understand the earth and to build a more resilient future. The geotechnologies include geographic information systems, web mapping, or looking at the world from 2D and 3D perspectives, remote sensing, looking at the world from space or aircraft or drones or UAVs or balloons even, taking images of the earth in different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, for example, infrared, the visible spectrum, etc. It also includes GPS, global positioning systems, or more broadly, global navigation satellite systems. So these things make up geotechnologies, sometimes referred to as geomatics or geotech or even geomedia, various terms for the same, or location analytics or location intelligence, various terms that mean the same thing, basically. In the past, we used maps on clay tablets, on wood blocks, Al-Idrisi's map on 2 big plates of silver from the 1100s, and more recently on film, on copper plates in the early 20th century, and then as the 20th century came to a close, in digital form. And now maps are one of the most common things that you see on the web. You and I actually interact with spatial technologies, even if you're not a geographer or a geographic information systems specialist or technician. How, you might ask? Well, you might have a fitness app that you use to record all the walks, runs, cycle rides, etc., that you engage in. You can map those things, right? And it's a great motivator for, if I walk around the block one more time, I'll get 5 miles instead of 4.8 miles, etc. You might use Google Maps or some other tool to navigate your way across a university campus or to the public library or to your grandmother's house. So you're using some aspect of geotechnologies. If you pull up a map on your phone or other device and you see that there's a certain amount of traffic on a certain road and you decide to take a different road because of that, why is that line red? Because people in that segment of road, they're all using the same mapping tools, and the mapping service is saying, oh, everybody's going 10 miles an hour through that zone. I'm going to color that segment red. So they're contributing inadvertently to the mapping service. In other words, there's no stripe across the road recording vehicles as they pass by. It's people on their devices contributing to this global network of information, the Internet of Things. So you are using geotechnologies. If you wait for a bus and you pull up an app for that bus line in your local community or a light rail line, and it says that bus is going to get to your stop in 2 minutes, that's all geotechnologies. Geotechnologies is operating behind the scenes. What did you have to eat yesterday? The supply chain uses geotechnologies. How is your computer being powered right now that you're watching this video on? Geotechnologies, the power companies using geotechnologies to manage all of its gas lines, electric lines, etc. Okay, so geotechnologies is an important tool, but also I think it's kind of like spatial thinking. It's operating behind the scenes, enabling modern societies to exist and to function. And geotechnologies also helps us to plan a better future. Those are the geotechnologies.